With which country does France share the longest border? One might first think of Germany or Spain, perhaps Belgium. But the truth is quite different. The longest border of France is located in South America and connects France with Brazil. The territory is called French Guiana and has a border of 730 kilometers with its neighbor Brazil. In comparison, the French-Spanish border is only 623 kilometers, the border with Belgium only 620 kilometers, and the border with Germany even only 448 kilometers. French Guiana is the last remaining part of the American mainland that is still part of a European nation. The overseas territory is located on the northeastern coast of South America, bordering Brazil to the south and east, Suriname to the west, and the Atlantic Ocean to the northeast. The capital is Cayenne. But how did it happen that France still owns a huge piece of land the size of Austria in South America? Christopher Columbus was the first to discover the Guiana coast back in 1498. Some settlements were established, but the Spanish were not really interested in the land at that time, as other regions in Central and South America were prioritized. It was not until 1604 that both French, English, and also Dutch landed on the coast of Guyana and colonized it. The French finally founded today's capital Cayenne in 1643. In the further course, however, the region changed hands again and again between the British, the Dutch, and the French. It was not until the end of the 18th century that France was finally able to consolidate its power there. In 1801, it was also able to further expand its territory when Portugal had to give up part of its colony of Portuguese Brazil to France as reparations for the lost Orange War. From 1852, the French then began to use the area as a penal colony, where deported convicts were imprisoned under cruel conditions. Therefore, the offshore island was also called Devil's Island. By 1939, over 70,000 French convicts had been shipped overseas in the process. Today, the prison is one of the main tourist attractions of French Guiana. It was not until after World War II in 1946 that the country became an official French overseas department, thus belonging to the French territory and also receiving 2 seats in the French National Assembly and Senate. Thus, unlike other overseas territories, it is an integral part of France and thus also belongs to the EU in the meantime. By the way, you can also see French Guiana on the back of the 50-euro bill. Here the outlines of the country are shown, because the euro is the official currency there as well. Finally, in 1968, due to its proximity to the equator, ESA built the main European spaceport in Kourou, which contributes significantly to the country's economy and created many jobs. This alone accounts for a quarter of French Guiana's total GDP. But one important question remains: why did French Guiana actually not want complete independence compared to the other colonies? There have been repeated calls for more autonomy, but these were ultimately always rejected by a large part of the population. There were particularly economic reasons for this. Due to the generous support from the mother country in the EU, the country is doing extremely well in contrast to its neighboring regions and is one of the most prosperous areas in all of South America. Therefore, only a few inhabitants see a reason to give up their prosperity by becoming independent. In a referendum in 2010, for example, almost 70% of the population rejected further autonomy. Ethnically, the region is very diverse. The majority of the population consists of the so-called Creoles and Afro-Guyans, who were brought there from West Africa primarily as a result of the triangular trade during the colonial era. The Europeans make up only about 12% of the population, and about 5 to 10% of the population consists of the indigenous natives. By the way, French Guiana is not the only Guyana, because there are 4 other regions with the name Guyana in the area in the northeastern South America. There is British Guiana, which is today the independent state of Guyana, Dutch Guiana, which is today the independent state of Suriname, Portuguese Guiana, which is today a region within Brazil, and Spanish Guiana, which is today a province of Venezuela.